A blunt warning from Moscow to London. British-made drones striking oil refineries deep inside Russia. Moscow calls it a declaration by proxy and vows Britain will pay. London's answer? No backing down. Two nations trading threats. How close is this to becoming something else? A new warning has emerged from Moscow to London. Russia has accused Britain of deliberately escalating the war in Ukraine after reports that British-made drones have been used by Ukrainian forces to carry out long-range strikes deep inside Russian territory. And Moscow's response has been blunt. Britain will ultimately pay the price for its involvement. The warning followed a Sunday Times report which said drones manufactured by two British companies had been deployed by Ukraine over the past 6 months. The aircraft were reportedly used against military and industrial targets hundreds of kilometers from the Ukrainian border, including oil refineries in Volgograd and Yaroslavl. Russia's embassy in London responded with an unusually direct threat.
London is deliberately opting for an escalation of the Ukraine crisis, while hypocritically professing a desire for peace. In doing so, the United Kingdom is acting as an accomplice and co-perpetrator of the bloody crimes and terrorist attacks committed by Ukrainian neo-Nazis, seeking to contain Russia and inflict maximum damage on it by proxy.
Moscow claimed London was deliberately choosing escalation, an action whose price would be heavy to pay.
London's actions will inevitably carry consequences for which it will have to answer. The deeper its involvement in the conflict and the greater its support for Kiev's terrorist machinery, the higher the price it will pay.
But Britain is showing no sign of backing down. Journalist Alex Raufoglu reported that the UK Ministry of Defence responded by saying the government would continue supplying Ukraine with the weapons and equipment for Kiev to defend itself against Russia's invasion.
Britain stands shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine and is committed to providing the equipment the country needs to defend itself. Russia should be in no doubt about the resolve of this government to stand against Russian aggression in Ukraine and against the UK and our allies.
At the same time, Prime Minister Andy Burnham said that Britain will support Ukraine 100% against Russia and remain at its side in its hour of need.
This is the UK doing what it has long said it would do, which is to support Ukraine 100% against this illegal war led by Vladimir Putin. We are providing support so that Ukraine can defend itself, and that's been the British position all the way through this conflict by previous Prime Ministers. It remains the case with me. We are not fair weather friends. We will be there in Ukraine's hour of need, and that won't change.
Are you embarrassed, and what action are you taking to make sure that things like that never happen again?
No, I'm not, because there was a minimal exchange, nothing of consequence, and actually quickly I realised that this needed to be reported, and I did so. So I handled it in the right way. All politicians are, receiving these pressures and these challenges, but I did everything right. There was a minimal exchange of information of zero consequence, and it was quickly reported.
Britain has become one of Ukraine's most prominent military supporters since Russia launched its full-scale invasion in February 2022. London has supplied Storm Shadow cruise missiles and tens of thousands of drones, and says it plans to deliver more than 150,000 drones by the end of 2026. Ukraine has stepped up attacks on Moscow and elsewhere deep inside Russia, particularly targeting its oil refineries and logistics sites for key online retailer Wildberries. On August 15th, Ukraine fired nearly 822 drones towards Russia, with 600 aiming for Moscow. On the same night, Russian attacks on Ukraine killed at least 7 people and injured more than 39. At the same time, Russian forces continue large-scale missile and drone attacks across Ukraine. Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov has warned that Moscow would continue disabling Ukraine's war effort.
Russia would continue to adopt much harsher methods to destroy everything that enables the West to fuel Kiev's war machine.
For Britain, however, the message remains unchanged. Supporting Ukraine is also about protecting British and European security. For Moscow, that support is crossing an increasingly dangerous line. And as British-built weapons strike deeper into Russia, the war of words between London and Moscow is now becoming almost as stark as the conflict itself. Russia says it faced one of the largest Ukrainian drone barrages of the war overnight, claiming its forces shot down more than 800 drones across the country. According to reports, a massive Ukrainian drone attack has set fire to a major logistics hub operated by Wildberries, often described as Russia's equivalent of Amazon, just 25 miles south of the Kremlin. Region's Governor Andrei Vorobyov described it as one of the most massive drone attacks in recent times, as the Russia-Ukraine war continues to rage. Videos circulating on social media show huge plumes of smoke rising from the Wildberries warehouse in the Moscow region. The two sides have escalated their air war on one another, with Ukraine increasingly firing barrages of drones at targets deep inside Russia, including warehouses and industrial plants as well as refineries. Ukraine's General Staff reported its strikes on Rostov Oblast targeted Kombinat Kamensky, a state-owned enterprise that produces solid rocket fuel for the Uragan, Smersh, and Tornado-S multiple-launch rocket systems. Meanwhile, Russia's state-run TASS News reported it was the largest Ukrainian drone attack since the beginning of the year, with many of the drones targeting the Moscow area, where many of Russia's elite reside. At the same time, Russia's defense ministry confirmed that Russian air defenses intercepted 822 Ukrainian drones overnight across several regions. The reported figure would rank among the largest Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian territory to date. According to Moscow's governor, Andrei Vorobyov, air defense forces and electronic warfare units shot down and neutralized 187 drones over the Moscow region.
Overnight, air defense forces and electronic warfare assets shot down and suppressed 187 UAVs in Domodedovo, Podolsk, Stupino, Odintsovo, Narofominsk, Ramenskoye, Chekhov, Kolomna, Kashira, and Yegoriyevsk. Unfortunately, there were casualties.
The governor further confirmed that a UAV strike caused a fire at a Wildberries warehouse in the Koledino Industrial Park.
A UAV hit caused a fire at a Wildberries warehouse in the Koledino Industrial Park. Employees were evacuated to shelters at the time of the attack. None were injured. In Domodedovo, a fire broke out at a warehouse containing medicines.
Wildberries warehouses have been repeatedly targeted by Ukrainian drones in recent months. Ukraine says it has struck 7 out of Wildberries' 10 largest logistics centers. Ukraine regularly strikes military infrastructure deep within Russia and the occupied territories in an effort to diminish Moscow's ability to continue waging its war. Earlier on August 15th, President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainian forces struck Russia's Savazlayka military airbase and a key Roscosmos facility in Samara Oblast, using domestically produced Flamingo missiles. In Voronezh Oblast, a Wildberries logistics hub in the Russian village of Novaya Usman was engulfed in flames on August 11th, following a series of explosions at the site amid Ukrainian strikes. The attack was later confirmed by Robert Brovdy, commander of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces. The Wildberries online shopping behemoth, the largest in Russia, is partly owned by senior officials in Putin's Kremlin power structure. Yet, Moscow's air defenses have failed to protect it. After dozens of recent attacks on Wildberries, which supplies Putin's military machine, the impact is being felt in the Russian economy, with the latest catastrophic blaze set to impact the capital city's supply chain.